of the Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines, Most Reverend Rex and Lucy Alarcon DG. Let's all give him a warm round of applause.
A blessed Easter to you all. Can you greet each other? Happy Easter. Okay. Do you know that Easter comes from the German word Ostern, which means sunrise, dawn? It is the breaking of the day. Thus, as we greet each other, Happy Easter, we also wish and pray that the shroud, the veil of darkness, of gloom, of hopelessness that covers us may be broken by the light that comes from Jesus. Jesus is our light. Jesus is the light that dispels the darkness, the light that brings us hope, excitement, and joy, just as when we see the day breaking. I therefore greet you once again. Happy Easter with that wish that the, the shroud, the veil of gloom and hopelessness may be broken by the light who is Jesus. In the name of the Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines, Episcopal Commission on Youth, I gladly take this privilege of opening this International Conference on Youth Ministry. I greet and thank the Loyola School of Theology with its President and Dean, Father Eric Eusebio, and the Jesuit institutions, the Don Bosco School of Theology with its President, Father Francis Gustilo, SDB, and the Salesian institutions. I'm very much privileged to be invited to this gathering. Two great traditions of teaching, of spirituality, of ministry to the young people. Habang nagsasalita kayo, parang lumiit ako. Medyo maliit nga ako. Lumaki din po yung tiyan ko. Parang ako yung young person na naimbita. Cordial greetings to Father Joe Kilong-Kilong, the former President and Dean, now consultor of the Congregation for Catholic Education. It's good to see him. It was some time that we were together in Rome. Greetings to all the resource persons of this conference who come from different universities, countries, experts in the field of youth ministry. Thank you for your generosity and continued interest in the young. I greet all the participants of this conference coming from the Philippines and from all over the world, local and international participants, and those who are participating via Zoom. Greetings to all those who are working behind the scenes and the screens. This conference and your participation for me are a concrete expression of synodality. Among the more concrete expressions of synodality is dialogue, conversation, exchange in view of the mission and care of the young. We continue to repeat the obvious. The COVID pandemic has disrupted many aspects of our life and ministry, and the present situation calls for change. The changes happening around us are so vast that Pope Francis says we are experiencing not only a time of change, but the changing of times. We have been speaking of new normal, hybrid classes and work. Certainly, the young and the youth ministry are not exempt from these changes. We know very well that many activities and programs for young people have been hampered and affected because we have not been able to gather face to face these past years. Thanks be to God, we now are able to do so. The pandemic has pushed us into the digital oceans and frontiers. Realities have changed. We may see these changes, especially with the rapid advancement of science, along with the consequences of these advancements. There are so many changes, yet the future is uncertain and volatile. Our time is characterized by multiplicity, plurality, diversity, and this is made more complex by the sad phenomena of climate change, migration, pandemic, economic crisis, war, etc. Yet, we find consolation in the greater concern for creation, for peace and development. I was a young seminarian when I read the book of Stephen Covey, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. What struck me was when he said, when I began to analyze books on personal development, leadership, and training, the past decades, he said, they focused on personality development, being able to speak well, to dress well, to present yourself well. But now there has been a shift, he said. From that, we go into building the character of the person. And that is the shift. Last year I was in LA. I bought a book by Covey, and he says there are five emerging realities, changes. The nature of work has changed. It has become technological. The nature the nature of the world has changed. It has become technological. The nature of the work has changed. It's increasingly knowledge and service based. The nature of the workplace has changed. We have now a dispersed workplace. The nature of the workforce has changed. It is now far more diverse. And what struck me, the nature of choice has changed from multiple choice or from to infinitesimal choice. Those of us who are not very young anymore, we would say, nung bata pa ako, I had no choice. Ito lang, no choice. Dalawa lang ang channel, ito lang ang school, walang TV. There was no choice. Those of us who are, more senior, we would say we live at a time when there were very limited choices. Now we have infinitesimal choices, and that impacts our freedom, our freedom. And this is very important in our ministry with the young and to the young, and for us of this age. In recent years, and with the continuing discoveries, we have seen shifts and changes. And we hear often the shift and the call to adjust or to change, to shift from isolation to networking, from hierarchy to shared responsibility, from competition to collaboration, from fixed mentality to growth mentality, from critical thinking to critical feeling, from merely believing to living, from preaching to listening, from positions of superiority and invincibility to empathy and vulnerability, from monologue to dialogue, even multi dialogue, from simply management to the development of peoples, from fugamundi or the contempo mundi to appreciation of the good in the world, from mere doctrinal approach to via pulchritudinis, the way of beauty, from mere instruction to experience and encounter. These are but some of the shifting sands in our pastoral and youth ministry. They all signal the call for new evangelization. Thus, Pope Francis has repeatedly called us to depart from the maintenance mode and to move towards a perpetual state of mission. We note that with the growth of the rational sphere of understanding, there has been disenchantment of the young, to use Max Weber's term. It is the cultural rationalization and devaluation of religion apparent in modern society. Then do you not realize the more a person or communities become intellectually sophisticated, it seems the religious feeling decreases. And one theologian once said, at that time when there was yet we have not yet discovered science and technology, we all pray to God so that our lands would bear fruit. If they did not, if if the seeds and the land would bear fruit, thanks be to God. If not, thanks be to God. But when man discovered artificial fertilizers, can you imagine? He said, it's not, it's not simply the prayer. And when science was discovered, man discovered the power in his hands so that we do not simply wait for the future. Man is able to say, let us now predict the future by creating the future because we have seen the power in our hands. We have seen the shifts with the scientific revolution, with the different industrial revolutions, and we are seeing the same in a massive scale in our time. This is the shift. This is the epochal change we are experiencing. If you think about it, the pandemic that we have just experienced has literally stopped the world. Diba? Tumigil ang lahat. Tumigil talaga ang lahat. Yung dating, the ways that we have relied on have become insufficient so that we had to make changes. This is the situation we are in. The call for synodality then is actually a call for ecclesial conversion. We do not see this. We have been speaking about synodality, but at the heart of synodality is a loaded and serious call, ecclesial conversion. It is not simply the conversion of a person, of a small group. It is a conversion of the church. It is an act of humility. Pope Francis is telling us we need conversion. Institutions, congregations, dioceses, the church itself needs conversion. That is at the heart of synodality. Thus, the invitation of Pope Francis in Gaudium Evangelii is, I invite everyone to be bold and creative in the task of rethinking the goals, structures, styles, and methods of evangelization in their respective communities. For the young and youth ministry, Pope Francis's invitation is to rediscover the beauty of silence and contemplation of the Word, service, especially to the poor and the children, the arts like painting, theater, dance, music, sports, appreciation of nature, care for the environment, and of course, not to forget the Word of God, the Eucharist, the sacrament of reconciliation, the example of the saints and the holy men and women. We find this in Christus Vivit. The invitation to journey with our young people by discernment and accompaniment is also an invitation to find God together, not only inside our churches, but on the streets, in camps, in encounters outside our churches, in the peripheries. And of course, to encounter Jesus among the young, who themselves are agents of youth ministry. They need, however, to be helped and guided, but at the same time, left free to develop new approaches with creativity and a certain audacity, boldness, Pharisee. Ministry then becomes an experience, an encounter with the risen Christ. As we serve, we are enriched. As we give ourselves, we find God. As we find ourselves, we deepen our knowledge of ourselves. There is a beautiful insight by Benedict. The deeper we know ourselves, the deeper we know God, because we come from God. Discernment and accompaniment discernment, and accompaniment because we do not have all the answers. We do not have all the solutions. Thus, the expert, the teacher, the elder is a learner too, a disciple, a follower of the way, a co-journeyer, a kalakbay. Truly, this conference is a cause of joy and hope. I know that the topics of the conference range from the situation of the young to the digital social media, discernment, youth animation, and new evangelization. Given the complex phenomena we are facing, we truly need accompaniment and discernment in the journey with our young people. And this also calls for shifts in our youth ministry. From a youth minister who has all the answers to a youth minister who journeys with the young. We hear it often. Educators, teachers are no longer a sage on the stage, but a guide along the side. These study days, I trust, will be an opportunity to strengthen our ministry to the young people. May we further, I invite you these days to stretch our minds, our imaginations, our arms, our hearts to find, discover, explore, and deepen service and accompaniment of our young people. Let us open our minds and hearts to the promptings of the Spirit. I sense the desire and the effort towards greater participation and co responsibility in this initiative, with the capability of appreciating the church's own rich variety, gratefully accepting the contributions from the lay faithful, including young people and women, consecrated persons, as well as groups, associations, and movements. No one should be excluded or exclude themselves, as Pope Francis says in Christus Vivit. That is synodality. Dear brothers, dear friends, this conference is a daybreak, Eastern. This conference is a daybreak. A light comes to us as we struggle with youth ministry in a digital world, in a continuously changing world. It is a journeying together with the Holy Spirit. Last October, I was privileged to participate in the FABC in Thailand. And one of the concerns of the bishops certainly is the young people. And I was having conversation with a cardinal who was saying, in my country, that the young are absent in the church or from the church, and we do not have vocations. Then I asked him, so what will be the future of the church in your country if you do not have vocations, if the young people are not there? He stopped momentarily and then he said, I guess we will just have to go back to the young people. And I silently agreed with him. For indeed, there is no other way. There is no other way. The renewal of society of the church is with the young and with the family. Imagine the university without the young people. What would it be? This is why I consider this International Conference on Youth Ministry as an Easter conference. I pray this brings light and dispel the gloom, doubt, and sorrow which the COVID pandemic has brought to us, especially our young people and our ministry to them. May the resurrection of Jesus bring us new hope and renewed enthusiasm in the youth ministry. Pope Francis, in his book, Let Us Dream, cites a poem by Alexis Valdez. It is titled Esperanza, Hope. He says, when the storm has passed and the crowds are tamed, and we are survivors of a collective shipwreck, with tearful heart, our destiny blessed, we will feel joy simply for being alive, and will give a hug to the first stranger and praise our good luck that we kept a friend. And then we'll remember all that we lost and finally learned everything we never learned. and will envy no one. For all of us have suffered and will not be idle, but more compassionate, will value more what belongs to all than what was earned, will be more generous and much more committed, will understand how fragile it is to be alive, will sweat with empathy for those still with us and those who are gone. We'll miss the old man who asked for a buck in the market, whose name we never knew, who always was at your side. It may be the poor old man was God in disguise, but you never asked his name because you never had the time. And will all become a miracle, and all will become a legacy, and will respect the life we have gained. When the storm passes, I ask the Lord in shame that you return us better as you once dreamed us. End of the poem. Alexis, the author of the poem, was inspired by his countryman, Jose Marti, a poet who said, Subir montañas, hermana hombres, climbing mountains together, make brothers. There is a bond, there is a closeness that is fomented, and perhaps this is also the tenderness which the Holy Father has always been speaking about, his closeness to us, and God's closeness to us, la tenerezza di Dio, the tenderness of God. We are all in the same boat. We are climbing the same mountain. May our journey together with our young people bring us close to each other. May we be truly a church where there is communion, participation, and mission, all rooted in the Blessed Trinity. Thank you once again for this opportunity. Thank you for this big contribution to youth ministry. In the name of my brother bishops of the Episcopal Conference, I wish you all the best. The message of Easter is the message of Easter is Christus vivit. Christus vivit. Christ is alive. In the first two lines of that document, letter of the Pope, he says, Christ is alive. He is our hope. And in the wonderful way, he brings youth to our world. And everything he touches becomes young, new, full of life. The very first words then that I would like to say to every young Christian are these: Christ is alive, and he wants you to be alive. He is in you. He is with you. He never abandons you. However far you may wander, he is always there, the risen one. He calls you and he waits for you to return to him and start over again. When you feel you are growing old out of sorrow, resentment, or fear, doubt, or failure, he will always be there to restore your strength and your hope. Dear brothers and sisters, dear friends, I greet you once again. Happy Easter, and may the light, who is Jesus, shine on you these days of the conference. Thank you and good morning.